Okay, hi everybody. This is Mr. Manning, and I am going to go through this video with you. The main purpose of this video is to talk about how to do recording or how to record adjustments and closing entries. And these two things happen in step 5 of the accounting cycle, which is the very last step of the accounting cycle. You do these on the very last day of the month. It's after you have done the worksheet, you've done the balance sheet, and you've done the income statement. You record all of your adjustments, and then you also do your closing entries, and then you are done for the month. We'll talk a little bit later about why you do these things, but here's what I need you to do. You're going to need the following in front of you before you go any further in this video. So I need you to have a blank general journal, your ledgers, and these aren't the blank ones. They should be the ones that already have transactions in it. I would recommend that you have the PowerPoint about adjustments and closing that I have posted on Edmodo for you. And then you're also going to need a pencil. So why don't you go ahead and pause the video and get all of those things together. And then as soon as you're ready, you can start the video, and we're going to talk about how to record adjustments. Okay, I hope you have all of your supplies that you need. The rest of this video is going to be about how to record adjustments. If you need to know how to do the closing entries, you should actually watch the second video. All right, so I have up the PowerPoint that I have posted on Edmodo for you. Hopefully you have a copy of it. And let's talk a little bit about what an adjusting entry is and why you need to do it. So if you remember when you did the worksheet, there was a section where you had to put in some adjustments. And this most likely took place for the supplies account and the prepaid insurance account. And the reason you had to do those adjustments is because both of those accounts change as the month progresses. You use up some of your supplies and you use up some of your insurance. So as you are doing your worksheet, you have to show that you have a new value for supplies and a new value for insurance. So that works really good. However, you only record it in the worksheet. The problem is you haven't gone back and recorded it in your general journal or your ledgers. And since you haven't done that, your balance will actually be incorrect. So if you did not do this, you would start the next month with an incorrect balance, and it could get really bad. You'd get all messed up and have to backtrack, and you just wouldn't like that very much. So what you need to do to do adjusting entries is you're going to need to have a blank general journal, and you're also going to need to have your ledgers. I'm also going to bring up the worksheet. Now, you don't have to have the worksheet in front of you right now, but I'm going to use it just to show you what adjustments that we're going to work with. Okay, so you can see that I have brought up the month of May worksheet, and you should have already done this. This was step 3 in the accounting cycle. We had 2 adjustments that we made. We made an adjustment to our supplies account, and we also made an adjustment to our prepaid insurance account. The reason we did that is because we used supplies and insurance as the month went on, and this balance over here was no longer accurate. So we had to make an adjustment to show that we only have $620 worth of supplies left, and we only have $1,000 worth of prepaid insurance left. Also, just a quick reminder, since we recorded 2 adjustments right here in the credit section, we had to also record an adjustment in the debit section, because for every credit transaction, there must be a debit transaction. So when I recorded $850 in the supplies, I also had to record an $850 debit in supplies expense. And when I recorded a $200 credit in prepaid insurance, I also had to record a $200 credit in insurance expense. Okay, so now that we kind of remember what our adjustment was, we are going to go back to our journal and our ledger. And we are going to first record the transaction in our general journal, and then we are going to update it into our ledger. So, when did this transaction take place? We did our worksheet on the last day of the month. So the transaction took place on May 31st. And the first account title is always our debit. So the account that got debited in this particular case was supplies expense. We do not have a document number on this one. I mean, I guess you could say that it was your worksheet, but there's really no document number. So we're just going to leave that blank. And we're going to put that our supplies expense was $850. So I'm going to record $850 on the debit for supplies expense. Now, as you know, every debit transaction must have a credit. For this particular case, it was supplies that was credited, $850. Okay, now at this point, I can either go ahead and do my next adjusting entry, or if I want to, I can record those entries into my ledger. I'm going to go ahead and record both of these into my ledger so that I don't forget, and then I'm going to do my other adjusting entry that deals with prepaid insurance. So, supplies expense. I need to go find supplies expense in my ledger. You're probably going to need to turn your page over. I have to scroll down on mine. And of course, it's all the way down at the bottom. It's the very last one here. So I record May 31st. It was a debit of $850. And since I do not have any balance yet, I'm going to record another debit of $850 for my balance. I also did a transaction for supplies. It was a credit of $850. So I'm going to go all the way back to my supplies account. May 31st. Credit $850. I have a debit balance of $1,470, and I have a credit transaction of $850. So, just like you did before, if you have a debit balance and a credit transaction, you must subtract these two. $1,470 minus $850 equals $620. And if you want to double check, you can look in your worksheet to make sure that that matches up. All right, I am now ready to go ahead and do my second adjustment. So I go back over to my general journal. I record the 31st again. This time my debited account was insurance expense for $200. And my account that is credited is prepaid insurance, also for $200. Now that I've recorded both of these transactions in my general journal, I am going to also record them into my ledger to make sure that my accounts they have the correct balance. So I'm going to go down to my insurance expense. It's my very first transaction, so I need to put the month, May 31st, debit $200. And since I did not have a previous transaction, that is also my balance, $200. Finally, I'm going to go up to my prepaid insurance account. The 31st, a credit of $200. I had a debit balance of $1,200. I now have a credit of $200. I subtract those two because they're not the same, leaving me with $1,000 in the account. Okay, that is all for adjustments. At this time, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and go to the next video, which is going to be about closing entries. And luckily, that will be our last video and our last step in the accounting process.